Hi, welcome to Veterans Milwaukee. I'm your host, Samuel A. Alford. Milwaukee has many interesting people, including veterans, with rich history and lives you may never know. I'm here with James Gomez. How you doing, James?
Samuel, nice to meet you.
Good, good. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where were you, or what did you do in the military?
Yes, well, I was in the Marine Corps, and about 40 years ago, I was a student at Marquette University.
Wow.
And I had an opportunity to look into joining the Marine Corps, and I did it to go to flight school and
Nice.
be an officer.
Nice.
And I never regretted making that decision. And I was happy to serve then, and I'd be happy to do it all over again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you said flight school, officer. What all jobs did you do?
Well, my military occupational specialty, or MOS,
Okay.
was Cobra pilot, 7565.
Sounds serious.
It is. It was a great aircraft to fly. It was a very busy cockpit. My ground job was an operations officer, so I would be in charge of helping come up with training development plans for the squadron and writing the flight schedule, and really just giving the commanding officer a day-to-day operational schedule.
Wow. So you literally wrote the book on it.
Yeah, I was. It took me a while to get to that spot, but it was very satisfying.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So how many years did you serve?
I served a combination of 15 years between active duty and reserve time.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
So let's go here. What was it like transitioning back into civilian life? What challenges did you face and other people face coming back home?
Getting off of active duty was a big challenge. One, I had to find a job.
Right.
So it was interviewing with companies, and I had to explain to them what skills I had that I learned in the military to then apply it to the position I was interviewing for. So it was a big change, going from a very regimented lifestyle
Right.
to then being more of a civilian, letting your hair grow and stuff like that. But it was, the challenge for me was going into sales.
Right.
So picking up a phone and making a cold call
Cold call.
was almost more nerve-wracking than flying an aircraft.
Well, now the rest of us don't feel so bad.
No, pretty
Thank
normal.
you so much, James.
Yes, sir.
We're going to transition back to Milwaukee Public Library. We're going to interview a few more veterans. Thank you so much.
We are at downtown Milwaukee Library to interview 3 local veterans to talk about their lives as a veteran.
I was a services superintendent. I was the first female to hold that position. I took care of billeting, which is housing. I took care of mortuary affairs, which was escorting bodies if necessary. I did food service. I did quite a few things to make sure that our servicemen were well taken care of.
At Fort Gordon, Georgia, I was assigned to be the company clerk. I was a company clerk of a training company, and the company clerk's job was to sign in on paper or make the morning report to receive people into the military service and send them to a training camp.
I was kind of like the textbook Marine. That was my goal, to be that textbook Marine. Everything about the Marine Corps, the way you present yourself, the way you carry yourself, the way you perform your duties, that was my motivation.
My total years with active and reserve was 20 years. Then I did 8 years in active reserve, which helped me toward my retirement. So my total was 28 years, Air Force.
Only 2.
I didn't serve very long, I only did 3 years.
Even being in the military sounds like a dream job. There are some struggles that they faced in the military.
Because I was a female, there was a lot of resentment, and they tried to replace me quite a bit because they felt that a man could do my job better than I could. There were 4 interviews with different men who refused to take the job.
I was traveling with a German guy named Hess, and they had let him go in, but they wouldn't let me go in. They said my USO club was about 2 or 3 blocks away. Hess decided to go with me to my club. When I went to my club, it was a parking garage with a pool table, card table, and Coke machine.
Struggles, it's just adjusting to a different kind of structure. I wouldn't say it's struggles, it's just going from civilian life to a military structures. I didn't really consider it a struggle, it was just a change. I wouldn't call it a struggle, it's just changing from one way of doing things to another way of doing things.
The master sergeant or company colonel would not accept me. He said he did not want a person like me to come and work in his office.
Coming out of the military can be good or bad, but what is their view?
Once I left the military, I had no problems connected to the military. I did very well after I retired from the military.
For me, going from the military was just to civilian life was just the same thing as going from civilian life to the military. It's just a change in structure in the way you do things. So I was civilian first, then you start doing things the military way. When I went back to civilian, it was just doing a civilian way versus a military way. It's just a different way of doing things, that's all.
As a matter of fact, because of my military background, I was hired almost immediately at VA hospital.
Not at that time, because I returned to my job. I worked for the government, so I returned to the General Accounting Office in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I returned to my job.
At the VA hospital, I was a medical secretary. Check patients in, doing all the transcribing of doctors' notes.
I work at Milwaukee VA Hospital. I work in the prosthetics department. I handle mobility equipment repair for veterans.
I had no problem because I worked for the Wisconsin Blood Center as a driver, and I worked there 21 years, and I'm paid by a retirement fund, which I have no problem with.
Because I was in the reserves most of the time, I did not get all the retirement pay that I would have gotten if I'd have been in active duty. But because I came out and got good jobs that supplemented my income, and I was able to use a lot of the resources that are here in Milwaukee.
Basically, I'm fully employed. I get some VA benefits, but basically, my income comes from working for the Veteran Hospital.
Here are some life tips, not just for the military, but for real life.
The first thing I would tell women going in or not, use the word no. Use it very strongly and mean it. Also, tell yourself, yes, I can. I could do anything that I set my mind to. I did that with every job I had in the military and in civilian life.
Go all in. Don't go halfway. When I went to the military, like I said, I was going to be a Marine, the Marine. I'd say whatever you decide to do in life, go all in. Don't step halfway, go all the way in.
I would say that it could possibly be a very good situation, very good thing to go to the military, but you have to pay attention to what you're doing. It's a change in the type of life that you're living, and you have to be able to adapt to that type of living.
The biggest thing I'll say, you get out of that small little piece of the world that you're in, and you get to see there's another world out there. When I was Before I went in, it was you stayed to one side of town. You didn't even go to the people back then never even went to the south side of Milwaukee. You lived on the north side, you stayed on the north side. If you went out to a bar, you went out to a bar on the north side. You didn't stray to the south side. Going into the military kind of said, you know, there's a whole world out there, not just the other side of the city that you live in, but the next city, the next town, the next state, the next country. So it says there's a lot of world out there. And I think that's what I got out of the military. I didn't stay long, but I didn't go far, but I got a chance to say it opens you up to new experiences that gets you out of your little small world. It gets you to know that there's other things, other people out there.
That was wonderful. It was so great to hear what their lives are really like. Now, let's head over to MATC Veteran Resource Center to see how they help veteran students.
This department is primarily here to serve what I call the military affiliated population. So not only does that include those that are currently serving, those that used to serve, it also serves their family members. One thing that a lot of people don't know these days that I like to spread the message about is a lot of benefits and a lot of things that GI Bill benefits that we know about, a lot of them are transferable nowadays to your wife or kids. A lot of students here may not have served themselves, but they still are entitled to those benefits. So we serve that population as well. From the military to what we call civilian life is oftentimes really, really difficult for veterans, whether they're trying to go back to college or not. But for the ones here that are trying to go back to college, there are a couple extra things that they have to deal with. So, we're here to kind of walk them through that, talk to them about it. I'm a veteran myself. I served in the intelligence community. So basically you have what's called like combat arms, infantry, the guys that kick down doors and shoot at people. And then you also have support units that support those people. So I was a part of the intelligence. I was actually a Korean linguist. When I joined the military, I went to basic training. And then after basic training, I went out to California language school to learn Korean for about 1.5 years. And then I lived over in Korea for a couple of years, using my language and doing intel work. Came back to the States, did some more assignments, and eventually I decided to go ahead and get out because I started a family. So I got out as an E6, which is called a staff sergeant in the Army, and that was my title. When I got out, just transitioning, it was a lot of different things, but I think it was mainly just kind of an identity crisis almost. It's like my whole adult life, I was in the military. I was a military guy, that's all I really knew. So when I get out and I'm trying to do something new, it's basically hard to shake that identity that you have. It's hard to stop being so military. It's hard to just transition to the civilian world. I went through a lot of struggles. I went through some financial struggles, trying to find jobs and support my new family that I had. I didn't really have much education at the time when I got out, so finding jobs was difficult. So there was a lot of different struggles that I faced when I got out that are pretty common among a lot of veterans that I know about. So I've experienced it myself, experienced the difficulties. So we're definitely here to help them kind of navigate all those difficulties of transitioning from the military. We call it a one-stop shop holistic approach. So anything they may need, we can either provide that service here, or we have connections in the community. Around the community, we have connections with the Vet Center, which is a mental health place that helps veterans for free. We have connections at the VA hospital. We have connections at this county office that serves veterans. So there's actually a lot of resources within the community that we have connections to that can actually help them with stuff like that, whether it's mental health, whether it's finding a place to stay because there's a lot of homeless veterans or some homeless veterans, whether it's trying to get back in school. Either we can help them with those things here or connect them with those resources in the community. We have 2 different offices to help veterans, right? So we have the Veteran Resource Center here, and we also have what's called a MESO office, a Military Education Support Office, that is responsible for processing all the paperwork for their benefits to get their benefits. So whenever they come in, whether they come here or there first, we're able to make sure that whatever benefits they're entitled to, they can get them as soon as possible, because unfortunately, a lot of times it takes a long time to process those benefits. So sometimes veterans are starting school and they don't get money for their books or they don't get money for tuition in a timely manner, and sometimes that can cause difficulties. But we do the best we can to try to get them done as quickly as possible so that they can get their money. One of the biggest problems was a lot of the programs that veterans like to do are hands-on. You have to be in class to do it. And obviously when the college shut down and nobody could come, a lot of those classes either had to get canceled or postponed or dropped and things like that. So that was a pretty big struggle, and a lot of veterans have expressed to me that they don't necessarily like the online environment. So a lot of the classes that had to change over to only online offerings, that was a struggle as well. But we worked through it, and fortunately, I sort of keep track of the current enrollment of how many veterans and military affiliated students we have. And even through the pandemic, fortunately, we were able to kind of maintain the level of students that we had and then even increase a little bit. So even though it was difficult, we've been able to persevere. Whatever they need, because what ends up happening is when different veterans come through and we see them, they're kind of at different levels. Some of them need a lot of help, some of them don't need much help, some of them just need one or two things they need information about. So really it's all about kind of like an intake process. So they come in, I'm able to talk to them to see what they need, and then once I kind of determine that, I can figure out whether I need to take them to the Meso office to do their benefits, or whether I just need to talk to them about getting housing or sign up for classes. It kind of just depends on what they need, because there's different levels of need normally between them.
If you are a veteran student with particular challenges, you can always stop down at MATC downtown campus, room S203. That's where the Veteran Resource Center is. It's been an honor to serve today on Veterans of Milwaukee. And let's not forget all the people around us who serve. Samuel Alford signing off. At ease.